Hello, my friends, back in the teaching van. I want to get this out. A main question I've been getting asked a lot is, how do I solo within one modal color? So, even if we just take the major scale, which is what I'm going to base this particular lesson off of, how do I solo? Why does it sound like I'm just sort of noodling up and down the scale? And to get into a little bit of the rhythmic part to it, I want to take an exercise which is going to help with opening up the fretboard. It's going to help with a little bit of speed, with a little bit of agility, with a little bit of accuracy, which I think is great. But it's also going to set us up for playing a better improvised solo, or even if we want to compose something, right? So the exercise. Let's do the exercise first, okay? I really, really like this one. We're just going to take A major, okay? And then we take that A major scale. We're going to go up in thirds, and those are going to form our triads, okay? So our pattern, 1, 3, 5, right? And then we're just going to move up to 2, 2, 4, 6, right? Move up to 3, 3, 5, 7, 4, 4, 6, 1, 5, 5, 7, 2, right? And so on. Now, the thing is, we could do that just in this little position. I do like, sort of moving it up here a little bit if we want to just get a little bit more used to that position. But this is sort of what it looks like. If I scale back, sort of play this slowly. I do need this exercise too. I do my arpeggio exercise, but I don't do simple thirds and triads. So sometimes it gets me a little mixed up from that G to B string, right? But if I have my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, that's right where it screws me up. Cool. So now, why does that help within the improvisation? Okay, once I can sort of play that, so all we're doing is we're starting on the 1 note and skipping 1, 3, 5, starting on the 2, 2, 4, 6. We're taking that pattern all the way up, and that's exactly what I did there. Fumbled a little bit, right, on that one. I think when I play that 3, something to look out for if this doesn't end up tricking you. If you sort of get all the way through this, right, when I get here, it's like, okay, I got the 1, right, because that's a pretty easy 1, 3, 5 right there. 1, 3, 5. When I get to the 2, it's a little weird, right? But this, when I get to the 3, I want to do a 3, 5, 1 rather than a 3, 5, 7 is what it actually is. I sort of want to finish the end of that bar chord, and that's what screws me up just a little bit. All right, back to it. Why is that important? Okay, if I am to take just one chord, all right, this guitar has pretty rough intonation, okay? This is my beater guitar. It's my van guitar, okay? My van teaching guitar. So if I have just one chord, right, and I have a video on this, but I'm getting a little bit more specific now, all right? That chord is my 1 chord. It's my tonic, and it's made up of 1s, 3s, and 5s, okay? So if I'm soloing and making a melody, creating an improvised line, I'm landing on my 1s, my 3s, and my 5s. Now, the 1 is the root note of the chord. That's going to sound the most stable. And it's the tonic of the key, so it's definitely going to make it more stable. The 3 is the color tone. That's what tells me if it's major or minor, right? So it's not quite as stable. The 5 is stable, but we're not quite home. Cool. Now we're home, okay, on the 1. So you can mess around with that. Try it really quickly, just very quickly, okay? Just play that scale up a little bit and just land on 1s and 3s and 5s. How do you know? How do you know where you are? 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5. Just try that, going up and down. Stay within just one part of the scale. All right, I'll split it up into halves. I'll say don't just do the scale on the top 3 strings, then do the scale on the bottom 3 strings, and just get used to where the 1s, the 3s, and the 5s are. Find the 1s first, right? Find the 3s. You're gonna hear those 1s. Those 1s are really gonna stick out. All right. And for you, for you guys that are sort of able to come up with some, you know, really creative lines. I think that's fantastic. One thing that is very helpful is when we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we get to that 1 right there. Now you can connect those two. And then just and that's your full major arpeggio, which I think is really nice to see. And that's also that bar chord. The only note that we're missing is that 3 is not physically in this bar chord. Okay, it is part of the chord, it's just physically not there. We go from the 1 right to the 5 on that bar chord. That's just the way that we have it shaped out. Now, let's do we're gonna make this the same pattern. All right, we're gonna play the 1 chord, the A, and then I'm gonna play the 2 chord. Now, just like that pattern that we were doing, 1 was 1, 3, 5, 2 was 2, 4, 6. Okay, what does that mean? That means when I go 1 chord, because that's my 1, if I want to build a chord off of the 2, it's minor, right? And that means within the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, as long as I'm playing a 2, a 4, and a 6 over that 2 chord, it's going to fit in very nicely. All right? I have my 1, my 3, and my 5 for my 1 chord, my 2, my 4, and my 6 for my 2 chord. All right, same idea that we were doing before. Split this up into the top half of the guitar, top 3 strings, bottom 3 strings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And then I'll usually start there, but then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Notice where the 1s are. Right, and then you can start moving. Oh, if you know where the 1s are, you can find a 2 and a 3 and the 7 and the 6 pretty easily. You know, start going from there. Start feeling around a little bit. Or if you need to, take it in thirds. Top 2 strings, middle 2 strings, bottom 2 strings. You get really used to where the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s are, right? And then the next 2 strings, right? 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. You get used to those notes. Cool, and then you get to the bottom 2 strings. You ever get lost? Just count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1. To know where you are. Now, in this instance, we're going to be hitting our 3s, our 5s, our 1s, you know? But we're also going to be hitting our 6s, our 2s, and our 4s for that 2 chord. So if I have this progression, 1 chord, 1 3s and 5s. Stand up for 4 bars, 2 chord, 2 4s and 6s. Try it. Whatever comes, go nice and slow. You don't have to do much here. We'll get into that later. Hear those changes. Now I'm hitting my 2s, my 4s, and my 6s. Cool. Now I can take the same idea. Say I want to go from a 1 to a 4 chord. I'm going to take the same idea with that nice, right? 4, 6, 1. Those are the notes that I'm going to want to hit over my 4 chord. All right. Get as creative as you want. We'll come up with interesting ways to do that later. But let's just get into playing that. If I have my 1 chord, hitting my 1s, 3s, and 5s, if you've got to stick to these 2 strings, rewind it, those 2 strings, rewind it, those 2 strings, just to know where those notes are, right? Figure out where those notes are. Get really comfortable with where those notes are, and you're going to hit 1 3s and 5s. Now, 4s, 6s, and 1s. And there's a reason reason I say them in that order is the 4 is the root note. Back to your 1s, 3s, and 5s. Your 4 is the root note of the 4 chord right here. 4s, 6s, and 1s. Right to the 1s, 3s, and 5s. It all you'd like to go through, play it, make it very interactive. So we can see the pattern. If I do the same thing with a 1 to a 3 chord, or even if I do a 1 to a 4 chord to a 5 chord, right? I have my exercise. So I have my 4, 6, and 1 for my 4 chord, 5 chord, my 5, 7, 2. So then for my 1 chord, I'd hit my 1, 3s, and 5s. For my 4 chord, I'd hit my 4, 6s, and 1s. For my 5 chord, I'd hit my 5s, 7s, and 2s. Right? And again, take it piece by piece. I'm hoping by this point of the video, we can at least see where that pattern is, right? It might take you a second. Right, but just using even that exercise, 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 6, 3, 5, 7, 4, 6, 1, 5, 7, 2, 6, 1, 3. I get counting started. 7, 2, 4, 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 6, 3, 5, 7. That's where I get tripped up, right? And then 4, 6, 1, 5, 7, 2. If you're thinking of that. And all we're doing there is the triads, of going up and thirds with the triads of a 1 chord, a 2 chord, 3 chord, a 4 chord, 5 chord, right, my 6 chord, my 7, which we don't use very often, and then my 1. Okay, and that is the triad layout. So when you have the exercise 1, 3, 5, yeah, it's just that. That's all we did, right? But it's every single 1, every single 3, and every single 5 that fit over the 5 chord. When I have my 1, 3, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 1, yeah, right here it's 4, 6, 1. But when I get to that 4 chord, it's any 4, any 6, and any 1. You know, in that position. So that's why I really like that exercise as a guide. And you could, like I was saying, you can continue when you have your. Right, when you get to this 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 1, there's your full major. And you could do that same, 2, 4, 6, if I wanted to do, then 2, 4, 6, 2. There's your next layout of the full sort of triad arpeggio. Now, this is where it starts to get a little tricky. When we get into the other modes, all of the same rules apply. Now, I'm not going to go specifically through each one of the modes. Let's go to Mixolydian, okay? If I go to Mixolydian, it's the same thing as a major scale, except the flat 7. Now, can we do the same thing? Same rules apply. 1, 3, 5, right? 2, 4, 6, 3, 5, flat 7. 4, 6, 1, 5, flat 7, 2, right? It gets a little tricky, right? 2, 1, 3, flat 7, 2, 4, right? And then back to my 1, 3, 5, and so on. That flat 7 is going to change the chords within. Before we were doing like a 1 major, a 2 minor, a 3 minor, a 4 major, a 5 major, a 6 minor, a 7 minor, minor flat 5, and then back to my 1 major. With Mixolydian, it's different. It's the 5th mode. So this is where it gets a little tricky. All right, it's the 5th mode, which means, yes, I have a 1 chord that's major, A, right? Right, that is my tonic in Mixolydian. It's still my 5th mode, which is really strange. I want you to really, this is where it gets a little tricky, okay? Because there's almost like two numbers happening at the same time. Within Mixolydian, I have my 1 major, okay? I have a 2 minor. I have a 3 minor flat 5. I have a 4 major. I have a 5 minor. All right, and then a 6 minor. And then my flat 7 major. And then my 1 major. And what that mimics is, because it's the 5th mode, it's actually mimicking a 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're building a whole tonic. I don't want to say tonic. We're building a whole sonic. I'll use that word. We're building a whole sonic universe around the 5 chord. All right, in the specific key. It's Mixolydian. Now that does make it a little bit tricky. I want you to try something, okay? Just focus, still with your flat 7, right? And I'm going to play the 1 chord. You still have your 1s and 3s and 5s. Just focus on those 3 notes, but you're going to hit anytime you pass through a flat 7 rather than a natural 7. Let's give it a little bit of a shot here. We're just starting. There's a lot to all this. So this is like a nice little introduction. Now I'm going to change things. I'm going to give you a very typical progression in Mixolydian. It's a 1 to a flat 7. So my 1 is my 1, 3s, and 5s. My flat 7 is my flat 7, 2s, and 4s. So 1, 3s, and 5s, flat 7, 2, and 4. My 1, 3s, and 5s, my flat 7, 2s, and 4s. Right, you get tripped up. 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 6, 3, 5, flat 7, 4, 6, 1, 5, flat 7, 2, right? Then my 6, flat 7, 2, 4. There it is, right there. Flat 7, 2, 4. Okay, got it. Right, that's where this, when you're hitting your 1, 3s, and 5s, 3 notes in your flat 7 chord, flat 7, 2s, and 4s. I like leaving that E open. That sounds nice. Right? Let's try, and in anything within that key, you know, if it's a Mixolydian progression. So let's touch on Lydian a little bit, okay? My Lydian scale: 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Now I can do the same thing. 1, 3, 5, 2, sharp 4, 6. That makes that 2 chord major. 2, sharp 4, 6. Right? 3. It's hard to call out these numbers like that quickly. 3, 5, 7 for me it is. Sharp 4, 6, 1. All right. Then I got my 5, and so on. Right? And I'm sort of like getting back to where I started. So let's say I'm going to do A major, but I want to make it Lydian. I'm going to go up to B major. All right. So it's a 1 major to a 2 major. All right. Now, I've got my 1, 3s, and 5s. Cool. And within that 1, 3, 5, actually, I'm going to stick just to this A major for 1 second. Just play that scale with your sharp 4, your Lydian, landing on your 1, 3s, and 5s, but you're just changing. You got a sharp 4. If you need the shape, look up Lydian scale shape. They're everywhere. You know, Lydian mode shape. Cool. Now I'm going to switch it, 1 3s and 5s, just like you're doing. Now I want to hit that sharp 4 here. My 2 sharp 4 and 6. 1 3 and 5. My 2 sharp 4 and 6. 1 3 5. My 2 sharp 4 and 6. My 1 3 5. 2 sharp 4 and 6. Now, right, let's just get into a couple of things. Rhythmic phrasing, right? Motif. Very, very simple stuff. How do we get away from just sounding like we're running up and down scales? Let's not run up and down scales. What does it sound like when we are running up and down scales? We're just sort of going in one direction, the other direction. We might vary it up, even though we're not really. Going up the notes and then down a little bit and then back up again, right? That's not going to help. We're just constantly... Right? The main thing is really going to be that pulse. You know, 8th note, 16th note, even quarter note pulse. Make your rhythms a little bit more interesting. All right? How we can make our rhythms more interesting is going to be where the notes fall rhythmically. Okay, so my strong beats, you know, if I was playing quarter notes, right, 1 and 3. Weaker beats are 2 and 4, right? But I'm not just going to want to, you know, 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. That's going to get boring real quick. Even if I start getting 8th notes. 1 2 3 4. It gets monotonous so fast it stops sounding like a solo, right? So when we're starting to divide it up, strong beats and weak beats, vary those up, right? If you take something like this, 2 3 4, ba ba da da da, okay, ba ba da da da. I start on a weak beat. I don't even start on beat 1, 2 3 4, 1 and 3 and 4, ba ba da da da. Okay, weak beat, strong beat, weak beat, strong beat. Right? Does that make sense? Right? That kind of like if you're on the 1 2 3 or 4, that's going to be your strong beats. When we subdivide into 8th notes, 1 2 3 and 4 are going to be strong, and then all of the ands, right, are going to be the weak beats. Vary out where those sit. If we're constantly starting on 1, if we're constantly hitting every single 1 2 3 or 4, and we're constantly hitting every strong and weak beat, we have to vary those up. Then when you find a cool rhythm, can you repeat it? 1 2 3 4. Right, that last one I wanted to change a little bit, but those first 3 licks, the same exact rhythm, okay? And then the last one I varied a little bit. They tie together, right? That's how we can start tying things together. I just wanted to mention that a little bit because we get away from just da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Doesn't sound like a solo. Don't be afraid to pause, to get your phrases out. You know, shorter phrases, longer phrases, shorter phrases. Get those pauses in there. We know where those phrases are. Something that doesn't happen when we're just sort of running up and down scales. And don't be afraid to hit the same note a couple times, right? That's a huge part. You know, and then we start getting into whatever the chord progression is. If you have a loop pedal, those are fantastic. If you're playing something and you're saying like, all right, this is going to be over the 1 chord. I really focused on that 3. And then went to the 5. A lot of 1s, pass through the 2, pass through the 2 again, and get to my 5s. A lot of 1s, 3s, and 5s in that, my 1 chord. And then maybe I want to do, when I get to my 2 chord, right? Really focus on that 2. That's 6. Down to my sharp 4. For the 2, I'm still in Lydian. I'm still playing an A Lydian. So some things to focus on. I will do a full video that's a little bit more focused on that sort of rhythmic phrasing and how to build nicer sounding phrases so it doesn't just sound like you're running up and down scales. But I hope that this pattern is you're able to find the key that you're in. This is a lot, you know what I mean? And I mean, I have a 12-week course. I mean, that dives into all of this stuff. It come out like a pretty solid like theory master on the guitar. But so there's a lot here, you know. So I want you to try it with the chord progressions that I have, that I threw at you, and I'm sort of speaking out the notes. And then make some of your own. If you have a looper pedal, that's always my favorite, you know, or just record something on GarageBand on your phone and listen back, you know. It's always a solid way to do it. So I hope this was helpful. As always, DM if you need any help, and I will talk to you guys soon.